Today I'm going to repot some of my cymbidiums because the potting mix is not really well and the container is not really good for my current routine. So as you can see, this is a tree box potting mix, completely tree box, and some slow release fertilizer. This clay pot and tree box combination is really drying out so quickly. So luckily I don't have any root rot, but on the opposite, the roots are drying really quickly. So now I will open it and change the container and the potting mix. I will recycle the tree box for other uses to add it in the soil for other plants. But now I need to take off everything. As you can see from this Cymbidium goeringii, the roots are very dry. So in the beginning of my Cymbidium journey, I always worrying about root rot. So I chose the fastest way to dry them, and now they are too dry. So what I'm doing now is to check the roots, cut off all the dry and empty roots, remove all the pseudobulbs that are not healthy, and then after cleaning up, I will put them in a new potting mix and new container. So now just fast forward for this part. So here is how the problems I can see. The new growth and new shooting are getting rotted because I spray them very often as they dry up quickly. So the water just stay on the surface level around the pseudobulb, and they prone to rot the pseudobulbs. But then because the water doesn't penetrate well in the bottom part, so the bottom part of the roots are dried, like bone dried. So it's the opposite what I want, because I want the pseudobulbs to be drier and the root to be more humid so they can take in the water and nutrients. Now I'm removing the old and dead sheath and some dirty parts, dry leaves, and be ready for reporting. My potting mix is tree barks, satsuma rocks, and perlite. So for the tree barks, I tend to choose the one that are rounder, not just flat and thin. To stay in focus, you can see I don't choose the flat and thin one, but more roundish, because I think this one stays better in the mix. They don't lie or tend to cut the root. They are similar size to the satsuma rocks, so they can mix better. Satsuma rocks is a kind of rock from Japan. They absorb water really well, but also they have big gaps between them, so the aeration is good. And perlite are small particles and also good for the drainage and aeration. So I'm gonna mix them well and then repot the cymbidium. What I'm using is this plastic tall black container with holes on it. The holes on the side actually doesn't matter really well, but the holes at the bottom is important. They need to have better drainage. put the Cymbidium in the container, the pseudobulb's level should be at the same level on the edge, and hold it with one hand and just fill the potting mix in slowly, and then when it's about to fill the whole container, just tap it, shake it while hold the pseudobulbs to make them upright. If they tend to tilt one side, just adjust it and tap like this. Another example is this same problem. Too wet on the surface and too dry in the bottom. I didn't know what I'm doing when I put the sphagnum moss on the surface where it's really wet around the pseudobulbs, but the roots are so dry. So I'm gonna take it out and do the same. So as you can see, most of the roots are bone dry. I have to cut all of them. And also, this is about 5 or 6 pseudobulbs connected together, and I noticed some dead ones, so I will separate them. Usually when you separate them, keep one bunch, at least 3 pseudobulbs, and with new growth on it. And then remove the completely dead one, or aged ones, because there isn't enough nutrients that they can offer anymore. So this is an old one that I just completely dump, and after observing this Cymbidium, I noticed the middle part is an aged one, so I'm gonna split them in 2 halves like this. Keep it for later. And this one in the middle is the old one, so I twist it and throw it away. And then keep these 2 parts together. Gonna use it. Pay attention to the direction when you put them in the same pot. Put the new growth facing outward so they can grow, they have more space to grow like this. You can see the new shoots are facing outward, the old ones are in the center. And then repeat the same step like the first example. Fill the whole container, hold the pseudobulbs with one hand and tap it if they are not straight, and let the roots in contact with the potting mix better. And this is how I water and care about my Cymbidiums. The potting medium is very coarse, so I don't use watering can to pour it down. And then instead I'm using a mister to mist the whole potting medium. So first moist all the surface one by one, come back again and spray it until the water is coming off from the bottom. By doing this, the medium will be wet thoroughly, not just let the water run through quickly, and then actually the potting medium is still dry. But pay attention to this method, because misting sometimes can let the water driplets go into the crown or pseudobulbs and cause infection. So ventilation is very important. And every time after I water it, I will give them a wind ventilation for about 4 hours. So let the wind blow them, not very strong wind, but strong enough to let the leaves move a little bit like this. and that can let the surface dry quickly, so it doesn't cause any rotting or fungal infection. For the sunlight, they prefer half-bright indirect sunlight, even though people say Cymbidium can tolerate low light, but they're not happy in the low light. So I put them next to the window with some shading. Don't let the summer strong sunlight to burn the leaves, and they will be fine. For fertilizing, because this potting medium is not giving any nutrients, or there isn't any organic matter that the root can use, so I will use fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, put them in the spray bottle and mist them. Probably once a week, give them either foliage or the potting medium. For the temperature, don't let them suffer anything above 30 degrees Celsius, and they should be fine. But they grow much better when the daytime and nighttime temperature has a big difference, like in the spring or autumn.